Welcome to Kits and Wagers Game Week 34. This weekend, we have 6 bets for everyone, 5 in the Premier League. We have 1 in the FA Cup semifinals. I'm Zdroik, joined by Chris Owen. Chris, happy spring. It's finally warming up here by me. I know it's been warm for you, but we're finally warming up. Business end of the season. The business end boys are here.
The business end boys are for sure here. It's Thursday, aka Friday Junior. So we're ready to rock for the weekend. I love throwing in a little FA Cup bet. I kind of forgot about that for this weekend, and you mentioned that you were going to be doing that. That's a fun little treat for us, and kind of some cool teams in it as well. So obviously, we're going to talk about 5 games in the Premier League, but it's been an interesting week. There are some things that that did transpire and will potentially transpire this weekend that could affect places here. Of course, we had Aston Villa, Manchester City earlier in the week. That was a big come from behind. I guess not come from behind, but late stoppage time winner for City. And then we had a Mateta absolute banger of a goal there to draw things with Arsenal yesterday too. So I'm fired up. We're gonna get into a couple big games here this weekend, but it does feel a little bit lighter just because we had the 2 games in the midweek and then we have 2 FA Cup games, so a little bit different than what we typically get into. But I'm pumped. It's business end. We're almost
Chris is pumped.
Yeah, very pumped. So let's.
Yeah,
I think without further ado.
No, I was. Without further ado, I like how you're like, I kind of forgot about the FA Cup. Not going to mention it's because Liverpool aren't in it, but you just throw. I kind of forgot about Champions League and the FA Cup. I just kind of forgot about those competitions. As we ended last week's show talking Liverpool, we're going to end this week's show talking Liverpool as well.
You're out here. You're stirring the pot early and often here to get the show going. I was just saying I'm excited for the games, and yeah, we got some stuff going on.
RotoWire.com/soccer. PL articles, we got So Rare articles, we got FPL fan rankings, we got a little bit of everything. Roto 15 ROTO 15 for a subscription. But whoa, look at this right here. We got save 50% on any subscription plan with the code DRAFT. So don't use Roto 15, use Draft. You're getting 50% off on any subscription. So check that one out. No longer use Roto 15 until 4/26. All right, there we go. We have a live update on the promo code there. But Chris, first game we are talking about Saturday. We're moving to Saturday. Brighton are home against West Ham. This feels like I don't know if I want to say a weird game, but just one of these games where Brighton, I guess Brighton still have a shot for a European spot. They're sitting in 10th, level with Fulham, 1 back of Bournemouth. They are a bit behind Aston Villa and Chelsea, but I guess maybe Europa Conference is still a possibility. I guess I did read an article this week that there's a chance 10 Premier League clubs could be in European play next season because of the FA Cup, because of whoever wins Europa League, whoever wins Conference League. That would be Chelsea. So that kind of stuff there. But Brighton are home against West Ham for this one. Brighton are minus 150 to win. West Ham plus 380. The draw is plus 310. The Brighton injury list has been long for a while. They're starting to get some guys back. They fell apart a little bit. West Ham hasn't really looked good all season, no matter who their manager has been. So how are we going to read this one?
You mentioned that this game is weird. I think this is kind of a nothing game, in my opinion. You said 10th for Brighton, 17th for West Ham. There's not really, yes, maybe Brighton has an opportunity to get into Europa Conference League spot, but it's gonna be tough. It's they're gonna need a lot of help along the way. West Ham on the other side of it pretty well. They're not playing for a whole lot, and this game is weird, and it's a nothing game. But we're gonna sit out here and we're gonna bet it. These 2 teams have been also pretty poor themselves. I think you have to go back pretty far to find West Ham's most recent win. They have been kind of like holding teams to not that many goals, but it's typically been a 2-1 or a 1-1, or it's been pretty, back and forth a little bit, but not a whole lot of goals. Meanwhile, Brighton, they've given up. There's been a ton of goals in at least their last 3 matches here. So it kind of leads me to believe that expect like a 2-1 here. Just because we might see some interesting lineup changes to give maybe, I don't know if it's late enough in the season here for this now, to give some other guys a little bit of playing time to kind of try things out as we get down the stretch. I'm fully prepared to see something like that. But other than that, I just think that both teams are going to score here. I think it could end up being like a 2-1 game or even a 3-1 to Brighton. It's tough to like go out and pick like a money line bet because while Brighton's at home, the odds aren't that good, and you look at their form and they've been pretty poor. So it's tough to go that way. But I kind of like I like both teams to score here. It is plus 140.
Both teams score no draw as
What do you
well.
think? Yeah.
Yeah, plus 140.
Plus 140.
Yeah, I'll go with this one. I did some mental math here with the so I think it is if Chelsea win Conference League and then finish 7th, I think 8th place would then get a Europa Conference League spot. So that would be between Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, and I guess Brentford are there as well, and technically Crystal Palace if we want to go that far. So that's how it would play out here. So technically, Brighton still have something to play for, and I guess playing in Europe always has its perks. But I think the one thing with Brighton, they've been mixing and matching their lineup a little bit here towards the end of the season. It's kind of led to some defensive issues, and that's kind of what we've seen lately. As for West Ham, maybe. I don't know. I don't think they're going to figure anything out. I think as we look at the table, I think the one thing I kind of trying to decipher some of these things here with how these teams are playing. We have some teams, we have these teams playing for the Champions League spots. We have all those teams playing for something that means something. Liverpool sitting up there. We have these teams in the middle of the table where, okay, Conference League, and then the teams below that are just kind of in like a whatever position. And then the teams that are actually playing well are the ones with new managers outside of West Ham. I'll say, I guess, because Everton and Wolverhampton have actually been playing better than I'd say if you take like the bottom 12 teams from the table. I think Everton and Wolves have been probably up there with how they're playing over the past couple months. So two teams with new managers, maybe, those managers, the players looking for a bump going into next season. And then all these other teams, Crystal Palace, I know they got the result against Arsenal, but so I think West Ham fall into that. They do have a new manager, but it was last week Full Crew came out and just bashed the entire team of how they performed after they scored the first goal against Southampton. It was like, no one was even playing real soccer at that point. They finished with 12 They were one of the biggest favorites at home last week. Finished with 12 shots. Southampton got a late equalizer, 15 shots. Do you think Fulkrug's I don't know if I want to call it motivational speech? Do you think Fulkrug's speech after the game is going to change the mindset, or do you think this team is kind of just ready for the end of the season?
I think they're ready for the end of the season. It's not like Fulkrug's been there for he's been there for one season. They brought him in.
Yeah, this is his first season.
Like captain leadership kind of guy. It seems like they could honestly use a little bit of that, but it's that part of the season where teams who are, like I said, have nothing to play for. They're 7th. They're on their second manager, and it's just it's not. There's nothing to play for, so it's not going to turn things around. They should be able to they should have beat Southampton. That should not have been a problem for them. Like a historically bad Southampton team, and you can't get all 3 points there. That's kind of an embarrassment. So fair for him to say that. On the other end of it, you're like, okay, why haven't you been filling up the back of the net and contributing in a major way? So I don't know. It's tough for him to say that publicly, but you respect it a little bit. It'd be different if he had 15 goals on the season and was leading the line and
he's been hurt a lot. I think he's a great finisher, but they just haven't really been in the spots to actually get him in those spots to finish the ball. The bottom of the table is kind of funny. West Ham in 17th place, but they're 15 points above Ipswich Town. Just one of those one of these seasons where I guess that might be more the norm going forward, just because of the difference between championship level and Premier League level. But let's move on from that game. Chelsea are home against Everton. This is the first match on Saturday. Chelsea are minus 165. I think that number is kind of high here. Everton plus 475. It was minus 135 for Chelsea. I guess if you want to read into it, okay, Tarkowski's probably going to be out with a hamstring injury, and that could mean Michael Keane in the 11 or someone else, maybe move Jake O'Brien to center back. You could look at it like that and suggest, okay, Chelsea have more to play for. Everton don't have anything to play for, and Tarkowski, leader on the back line, that's fine. I just don't know if that's enough to move the line with how Chelsea are playing. And Chelsea struggling to score. They got 2 late goals at Fulham last week. Everton allowed 2 late goals against Man City last week. I'm just going under 2.5 goals. I thought the odds on this would be like minus 140, but it's close to even right now. Under 2.5 goals is minus 110 odds. You have 2 teams struggling to score a little bit, 2 teams that have been pretty solid defensively for the most part over these last couple months. I just think we're getting good value here. So under 2.5 goals, minus 110 odds.
Yeah, that's interesting bet here, because I think last week I lost on this bet. I took Everton at home, double chance, and under 2.5 against City. Obviously, City, I think it was 2-0. It ended up being. Yeah. So that one did not hit, but the under 2.5 obviously did. It's like a lifestyle for Everton. They're going to sit back, and Chelsea have obviously kind of been struggling. I guess struggling might be relative here, but they haven't been burning out the league here. So I think this is an interesting bet and pretty simple too. So I'm all for it.
Pretty simple. I have a lot of simple bets on this week. We did last week was single game parlays. This week it's just simple singles is what we'll call it. The last time they met in December, it was a scoreless draw. I think that's also in play here. So nothing surprising. Also on a Saturday, what do you got?
Well, quickly before this, you mentioned last week, I think we had 6 same game parlays, which maybe you should have been assigned to us. Like, all right, guys, tighten it up a little bit on the bets. And it's interesting when you see it in just a simple under 2.5 goals bet, and you're like, oh, that's nice. It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, this is the simple show. Maybe not for you, not for your both teams to score no draws. You kind of mix it up with all your bets, and then let's see what you got with these. Fulham are at Southampton. Fulham minus 150 to win. This one has actually gone from minus 125 to minus 170. Now it's a minus 150. Somewhat surprising. Southampton plus 400 to win. Again, the situation, Southampton already relegated. Fulham have a couple new injuries that were noted today. Fulham technically have a chance for a Europa Conference League, so that's what's going on with them. Do you think Fulham can bounce back after what happened late? Got me on my bet. I had double chance with Fulham in that game and got me on that one. But you think this is a good bounce back spot here for Fulham, minus 150 to win?
I really do. And it's less about Fulham and more about who they're playing. Yes, Southampton might have ground out a draw against West Ham recently, but them at home, they've been historically bad. They've got 5 points total at home. They got 1 win, 2 draws, and the rest are just big fat L's. So I just think it's about Fulham going to Southampton and just getting all 3 points here. It's tough way for it to happen last week, but I think you look at the opponent, you look at what they're going to be able to do. They're going to go in there, they're going to win. And then the other part of this, I mentioned the complexity of some of these bets. I'm back at it again this week. Another same game parlay. So I mentioned the Fulham money line, but you look at their over 5.5 corners. You couple that together, you get a plus 194. What led me here is Southampton's conceding at home. They're conceding about a little over 6 corners a game. You find this information over at the RotoWire cheat sheet. Fulham are actually top 6 in terms of corners 1 away from home. So they're averaging a little bit over 5. So I think just the fact that this game will mostly be in Fulham's hands for much of it, that we should see them at least be able to rack up 6 corners. And then it's up to them to not kind of screw this up and go get 3 points.
Up to them not to screw this up. Yeah. I'm definitely on Fulham money line. Maybe Fulham over 2.5 goals, something like that. Maybe I can get with. I always worry about the corner bets, the over corner bets with the favorite like this when I think Fulham can score early, and then the corners just don't come. That is the one thing I'm worried about with this one. But over 5.5 corners with the money line plus 194 odds. The other game, I'm actually going to the FA Cup with this one because this game is on Saturday. Crystal Palace against Aston Villa Saturday. Nottingham Forest, Manchester City is on Sunday. So I like this one to look at because I think we're getting pretty good odds here. Maybe somewhat surprising odds, I guess. So again, no home teams here. They play at Wembley for this one. But Aston Villa are plus 120 to win. Crystal Palace plus 235 to win. And to advance, Villa is minus 165. To advance, Crystal Palace are plus 125. Not great odds there, but I'm just going simple Aston Villa money line here. Plus 120. Again, simple bet show, plus 120 money line. I think this is pretty good given the situation with these teams. Aston Villa have an extra day of rest. Crystal Palace had that game against Arsenal on Wednesday. Aston Villa played Manchester City on Tuesday. And I just like how, even though Aston Villa just lost that game, it was at Manchester City. Okay, one of the more difficult spots of the season. But they've been playing really well here. And Crystal Palace haven't really been playing well. They got, I don't know, I'll say a B, C rated version of Arsenal, I guess. Not a ton, not really anything to play for in the league. They have Champions League coming up. They don't have a game this weekend. So I think maybe Crystal Palace benefited from that Arsenal team a little bit on Wednesday. But I just think that this is going to be Aston Villa's attack, the way they're playing right now, is just going to be too much for Crystal Palace, who are basically just struggling to defend right now with the players available to them. So I think we're, again, another one where we're getting a good number here. Money line plus 120. Not I just like the value here. Yeah. Are you on the same side here with Aston Villa?
This one's tricky. I think
Tricky.
just
Come
like
on.
I think just like yeah. I mean, Palace have been pretty good second half of the season. I like the Villa side of it just because they're a better team. They've got a little bit more like been playing in the Champions League. They're a bit more familiar with these big games. Obviously, just had some knockout round matchups here in the Champions League, so they they understand the pressure of the situation a bit better than Palace does, who is like probably for the first time in this kind of territory since like what Alan Pardew was manager there. It's been quite a while since they've been playing in like big kind of knockout games. So, and obviously the players there now are not the same players that were there then. So I think Villa are a bit more primed for it. Obviously, Unai Emery is a manager who has played in big games across multiple different clubs. So yeah, I'm good with the. This is in regular time?
Yeah.
Okay.
90.
Okay. I mean, I don't really expect it to go past that, but yeah, this is I'm with the plus 120. It would be very spicy for us to see a Palace Forest FA Cup. Like that would be like, I mean, as the neutral, as you mentioned, as the guy whose team's already out of it,
Yeah.
kind of rooting for that a little bit. But I think
That'd be something.
Villa money line is a bit better play here.
Yeah, you look back at Aston Villa's schedule. The last time these teams played was in February. Maybe one of Aston Villa's worst games of the season. Crystal Palace dominated them 4-1. Since then, that was like the turnaround of the season for Aston Villa because they've won every game but two. One of those was PSG. One of those was the Manchester City game. So there are only two losses since that last Crystal Palace loss have been on the road to two of the best teams in Europe. So that's what we're looking at. That's what the turnaround. That's kind of what I'm banking on from Aston Villa. And I just like them a little more here if we're getting plus odds to win. I know 90 minutes is tough, but I think they can do it. I think they can do it. Moving on to Sunday. Yes, we are talking the next game. I have a bet for Bournemouth are home against Manchester United. Bournemouth minus 145 to win. Manchester United plus 370. We look at the odds. Not too surprising that roughly go Bournemouth plus 100, Now they're minus 145. A lot of that is just because we saw the lineup that Manchester United rolled out there in their last game against Wolverhampton. A lot of young guys, and now they have Europa League coming up. So this game is Sunday, and then the Europa League semifinals are. I'm actually gonna let's look into actually where that game against Athletic is. They are in Spain on Thursday, so you got to think that it's not going to be it's not going to be a full A squad for Manchester United. So that's kind of why the odds look like that. But I'm looking at for my bet here. So I have under 2.5 goals. Simple bet, plus 120 odds. Bournemouth haven't been scoring consistently lately. I took them in their match against Crystal Palace recently, and it was scoreless. It ended up being scoreless. And their attack just really isn't converting their chances. One thing Manchester United is doing is playing defense reasonably well for the most part. In some instances, so I just think it's going to be a defensive game. Two teams kind of struggling to convert their chances. Manchester United struggling to convert their chances as well. So two teams struggling to score. Two teams back-to-back clean sheets for Bournemouth. Under 2.5 goals, plus 120. Simple bet, simple win. Let's get it.
I like it. United historically bad. One of the worst United teams will probably might be, it could always get worse, but definitely one of the worst teams we've seen in our lifetime.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what lineup gets out and then what the odds do if that's the case. If they roll out their A squad, not Harry Amos and Tyler Fredrickson, these teenagers, if they don't roll out those guys and it's all their A squad who are also going to start Thursday, which would be a crazy strategy from Almarine. I don't think he's going to do, but if they do have their mostly A squad, then I wonder if we actually do get a line movement here. So that'll be something to keep an eye on if you're looking at a money play or something like that. So that's one thing that will change with this match.
And Bournemouth have a lot more to play for here, so they're still kind of keeping their nose in the hunt for some European play next season. And I'm interested to see how many of these players that are like in the Bournemouth lineup are there next season. It feels like it could be a good selling season for them over the summer, and 4 more games for those values to kind of inflate a little bit more.
Yeah, Semenyo and Kirkesh are probably, and I guess Dean Hyson.
Yeah, three big.
Yeah,
it's like 150 million pounds right there that they could probably take in.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of money for them if all 3 of those guys go. But the biggest game of the weekend, Chris, this is it. This could be it. The title winner, Liverpool minus 380 to win, Tottenham plus 750. Ouch. They were minus 275. Tottenham in the same exact situation as Manchester United. We'll probably get some different lineups. We'll see what Postecoglou wants to do here. They have a variety they can do outside of Son, who's been hurt. They have a variety of who they want to play here. So that'll be one thing with this Tottenham lineup. But does it matter, Chris? Are Liverpool just going to run away with this thing and score 5 goals?
I don't think that it'll be 5 goals. It's not going to be another 6-3 matchup like we saw earlier this season, or another like 4-0 from that the League Cup semi.
That was such a crazy game.
Yeah, it really was. The 6-3 was absurd. I don't even you thought it would go one way, and then it just kept the balls kept going to the back of the net. Now this one's big. It's at Anfield. All they need is a draw to be crowned the champions. And so I think they'll come out ready to play. It would be weird if the stadium wasn't just a buzz at the opportunity to see it. So I think they'll get some good support. And Tottenham, they just recently have not been good. So they just lost to Forest on Monday. They did advance in the Europa League though, which is kind of where they're hanging their hat this season. So couple the opportunity for Liverpool to lift the title, and the fact that Tottenham are going to be looking forward to next week. I think that it would be weird, similar to the same we just talked about United. It would be weird for Ange to kind of put out his best lineup here, but maybe he will just because he's got a little bit of pride. But anyways, to my bet, I think I'm going back to some more complicated stuff. You look at a lot of these matchups between Tottenham and Liverpool, and it's always goals. I mentioned the 6-3. There was a 4-0 in the second leg of the EFL Cup after a 1-0 win for Tottenham. So, but other than that, there's been a ton of goals in some of their previous matchups. I like over 3.5 goals. I think whether it's Liverpool running riot or we see like a 2-2, I think we will see over 3.5 goals. And then you got to go back to the main man, and that's Mo Salah. I think he would love to put his stamp on what's been a really good season for him with, a pretty big time offensive output. So you take that Salah, 2 shots on goal. The last time they played, Mo Salah 7 shots, 3 shots on target. So I think we see that again here, where he is early and often trying to find that be 28th goal of the season here. So you couple those together and it's plus 154.
Yeah, Salah's going to be ripping shots. I think that's it's been the case for a little bit here. He hasn't been converting a lot of those. Did the double doink in the last game. I guess the only thing I'd say for this is I'm not convinced, Tottenham are going to score with the way they've been playing. If I'm being honest, we'll see what their lineup looks like. So, we could get a 2-0, 3-0 type of game here from Liverpool. So maybe a little worried of over 3.5, but maybe it is 3-1, 4-0, something like that.
7-0. I don't know. Like I couldn't be mad at that, but yeah, I think, you get one in the back of the net, they find the second, and you might see floodgates.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising. We'll see who the center backs are here. The last couple games for Tottenham, just the early goals they allowed against Nottingham Forest. They allowed 4 against Wolverhampton. Just a lot of these are just like not even mental mistakes. It's just being lazy and not really, I don't know if I want to say desire, but just not very good play. Like the Cunha goal against Wolverhampton a couple weeks ago, not very good. They failed to man mark Wood in this most recent game, and just all this stuff is a lot of the goals I'm saying could be prevented if Tottenham were, I don't know, had more motivation. I guess is maybe what it comes down to. But that's all we got here. Plus 154 odds, over 3.5 goals. Salah at least 2 shots on target. That is it for the 6 bets. Here is the FPL cheat sheet. Again, code DRAFT, DRAFT. That is for NFL. The NFL draft starts today. That is what the code is for. But this has lineups, this has odds, this has goal scoring odds, has stats, set piece takers. Liverpool, Newcastle. So the odds are almost exactly similar here for them, both at home. Who do you think is going to score more goals? Newcastle home against Ipswich Town, Liverpool home against Tottenham.
Ooh, I took a Newcastle over 1.5 last weekend and lost, so I'm going to say Liverpool, just because I'm salty.
Yeah, you took that at Aston Villa and they lost 4-1. Should have taken the over 3.5.
Can't dwell on it now.
No, we do not dwell. We only look ahead on this show because we're going 6-0 this week. But that's all we got for game week 34, business end of the season. After this, we have game week 35, game week 37. Wait, I just skipped game week 36. I cannot count game week 37. That's 3 more weeks. And then we have the finale. And Chris, 10 bets a piece, 20 bets total on the show. Game week 38, mano y mano, 1v1 for all of the fake dollars that we have between us. But Chris,
is our third or fourth season doing the 10 bets in game week 38?
I think it's the 4th season now. I think this is the 4th season of Kits and Wagers. We're just rolling along here.
We had a big swing last season, if I recall, on game week 38.
Big swing, a lot of wins, a lot of losses. Just a great ending of the season, and I expect more fireworks for this one. So we're getting ready for it. A month left of the season, Chris. Business end boys are here. Let's win some bets. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks.